You're listening to Unguarded, where we talk about relationships, and we just are really passionate about relationships. We want you to win in all relationships, friendships, marriage, dating. And we're your hosts, Beck and Joe, the Smiths.
Yes, we are. And we're back.
We're back after a bit of a break.
Took a little break, traveling a ton, life stuff, Mosaic.
So many
Huge.
things.
So we launched a campus in Calabasas.
Whoop,
and then
whoop.
a couple weeks later, found out our time in Hollywood was coming to a close. And so it's just been a wild
ride.
A wild month. And so, yeah, we peeled back a little bit just to kind of recalibrate. We've got a new setup, right? So even we're moving, right? And so we thought it'd be cool even in this space as we're packing up the house and getting it ready for what's new.
I love that we're packing up the house. We haven't even started packing up the house, but I love that.
You got to start packing here. This room is empty. It's completely empty.
Got nothing to do with you.
It does, right? One room down, and we got 4 more to go.
This is because someone else packed up.
But we let's do a little makeshift studio for.
No, it's cool that we have this space.
Absolutely, for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So we'll switch it up, and then maybe we'll have the next ones at the new spot. Maybe
let's hope. Oh gosh, I pray that
maybe we'll start filming in Calabasas. Maybe we'll just film in the hills.
That's true.
Wildflowers.
Well, wildflowers. Oh my gosh, they're
quite stunning. It's my favorite thing driving up. Every time we're out that way, just seeing the hills pop.
Yeah, the moment you get on the 101 and there's this hill that you go over, and the moment you hit down that hill, you just see the valley, and it's beautiful.
So we were in Italy recently. But before we get into that, I mean, again, so many crazy things happening. We've got our first unguarded wedding.
Yes, we did.
First unguarded marriage. Woo! David Yanez,
Melissa Yanez.
That's right. She's no longer Melissa Adams. She's now Melissa Yanez because David, family of the program, is officially married.
Could you thank us for that? Like, I think it's all right. It's all to do this podcast.
Yeah, would not have happened without us.
Without us. I really believe so.
So if you're listening and you've gotten engaged or maybe you've gotten married, let us know. Like, shoot us a DM.
Yeah, that's so true.
We'd love to celebrate that with you. But yeah, we're excited for David and Melissa.
It was, can we just say that was the coolest wedding.
Very cool.
Ever. Mm-hmm. It was just so them. Like from the newspapers, they had like a newspaper literally that on each seat that told their story.
Yep.
And then if you didn't know, David is an incredible DJ. And so they had like music playing, another DJ playing. And everyone's like, David's about to hit the, you don't say
his
decks.
set's about to begin.
Set's about to begin. And he's like, and we're like, okay. So we rush in, and he is incredible. David, you are unbelievably talented.
It blew out the speakers.
Yeah, it really did. Yeah, literally.
So went so hard.
Yeah.
The speakers blew. So it was a sign of a great wedding.
It was so fun. And then the photo booth was so epic. It was just so them. Yeah. It's the best.
And then, a couple weeks before that, we were in Italy traveling. Maybe we'll get into that on another pod and kind of dive in. Maybe do a whole Italy pod.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to film an episode in Italy.
Now that you're saying
for the viewers. I was my desire. This one here wanted to just vacate life, vacate responsibilities, and just enjoy. But maybe we can.
But now that we're in this room, I'm like, why can't we be in Italy now?
Somebody said that, but yeah, maybe do an Italy pod. But one thing that I thought would be an interesting thing to talk about, because I've been having these conversations for like the last couple of weeks. When you have one conversation and it's like, oh, okay, I get that, and then a second, okay, maybe there's something here, and then when there's a third, like, okay, maybe there's a bigger story happening. Maybe there's a cultural thing that we're kind of tapping into, or a lot of people are dealing with. And so, this week I've just been chatting with a lot of people about like going through breakups. Either on the verge of a breakup, at that space where deciding, do we keep going? Yeah, it's like when you hit that, line of demarcation, like, hey, we're either going all in or it's time to tap out. And like, how do you know when it's time to pull the plug? How do you know it's time to end it? And how do you know it's time to fight for?
Yeah.
Because, we've had both ends of the spectrums in our conversations with friends. We have friends that were about to break up. Seemingly the relationship was over, and then they chose to fight and they got married.
Yeah.
We've had friends that broke up multiple times.
You know who they,
in their relationship, and they worked it out, fought through it.
They definitely
married, kids, right? All that. But then we also have friends that stayed in way too long.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew that it was time, but were holding off hope that, whatever those things that needed to be worked on would eventually get worked on. But then at the end of the day, it just made it, the pain didn't go away.
Yeah.
The hurt didn't go away. It just delayed the inevitable. So how do you know when it's time to end it and when it's time to fight for it?
Good point. Well, I mean, for me, I had a friend recently too that just went through a breakup. And one of the things that she shared was the chemistry. She was like, oh, I think this person's cute, really like him, but then I don't know if we have any chemistry on top of that. And those are the things I think it's very hard to judge before you date. Sometimes instantly like, oh gosh, we have chemistry.
Yeah.
But sometimes you take a risk and you're like, I don't know, I'm just going to put myself out there and, go on a date or start dating. And then you realize, oh, hang on a minute. We actually have like less in common than I thought. Have some things so much in common, like their preferences, what they like to eat, what they like to do, that seem to be like all going great. And then, but the deeper, meaningful like conversations, that's when I think she realized like, oh, we don't actually have those type of meaningful conversations that I want. And also, I just don't know if there's any chemistry. Mm-hmm. And will that grow? That's what she was asking me. Like, will that change? Do you think I could like, will this person grow on me? And I don't know what you think, but for me, I was like, nah. If you don't have the chemistry, it's just like you can't really force it. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
I mean, it's two different conversations. Chemistry, I don't know if you can force chemistry, but I think you can grow in intimacy. You can grow in interest. You can grow in attraction. Yeah.
I don't know. That's the part I don't know.
I definitely think you can grow in attraction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. I guess so.
Yeah. If you're not growing in attraction, then you're still interested in the person that they were, not the person they're becoming.
Yeah.
Because I hope I would become more attractive over time. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I hope so. Yeah. You become more attractive to me over time.
Okay.
I think you talk to anybody who's been married for decades, for a really long time, and that's the beauty of a growing relationship, is that things evolve, they shift, they change, they develop. So you have to have a starting point. You have to have a reference, base where we're building on top of this. But yeah, I've talked to people and know people who they were like, yeah, even we were talking with a friend recently where they were really honest and like, yeah, we thought each other were like, okay, when we first met. I don't know if you remember who they were, but yeah, they're like, yeah, we weren't crazy attracted to each other. We were just like, we're fine. And then something shifted. The more time they spent, the more they saw each other in their like spaces and their zones.
Yeah.
Right? Just the more, the deeper the relationship got on a friend level. Yeah. All of a sudden, romance started to birth. Yeah. And it wasn't that the people were unattractive before. Yeah. Or even unattractive, but it was just sometimes you tap into something that you weren't able to at the beginning of a relationship. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's something that can develop, that will develop, that should develop, but also you just got to be honest and clear on if you're moving in that direction with the person. Yeah. Because sometimes you can't force it because it was never there to begin with. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, actually, now that you say that, it's a friend of ours that started dating, and I don't think this person was like her maybe particular look or person that she's dated before. Someone that she's like, oh, I'm instantly attracted. But there was something obviously that drew her to him. But then more and more she's getting to know him. She's like, oh my gosh, wow. Like, I want to marry this person.
And yeah, maybe it's like that
How
person.
quickly how quickly were they in the relationship?
Not long.
Like what? Give me a time frame.
Maybe a couple months. Not even. Maybe.
That's because maybe that's just a little side note. Because maybe we can talk to the ladies for a second. I
Yeah.
will say, the ladies, y'all get a little more.
Maybe we do a little.
You dig in a little quicker than maybe some of the fellas. Maybe we take longer. But just because you were saying that made me think of somebody that like legitimately and because I get nervous with the phrase "I'm gonna marry this man." I'll just put it gender specific because again, most of the time it's the ladies. I'm gonna marry this man. It's a dangerous declaration early on because I hope you get to marry this man. I hope it works out. But when you get in so deep so quickly,
quick. Yeah, that's a good point.
especially on a guy's end, I can tell you like it can come across like too much.
Well, this person's also equally saying, no, I want to marry you. So.
And
that's okay.
That can also be dangerous.
Okay.
Know? Just that quickly.
Yeah.
I think just making those declarations, you can have that feeling.
Yeah.
And, you can have that hope and intention. I just think vocalizing it is I'm just putting caution to the wind to all of our friends out here. And especially who you vocalize it. Because if you're talking to each other about it, that's one thing, I maybe would even caution some of those conversations. But then when you're telling everybody,
yeah,
that's my husband, that's my wife.
I mean, I don't think they're saying
you've yet to meet like their cousin. I just think it's let's slow down a little bit. Just a side note.
Yeah, I think though when you've been searching and you both want the same thing, maybe you can get carried away in it. But I felt like when we met, we both wanted the same thing. We weren't just like wanting to date just for the fun of it. You definitely weren't saying I want to marry you from the get-go.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying we both knew this is where we're heading, or we both wanted the same thing. Whether it was with each other, marriage, like to get married.
Just marriage in the future.
Yeah. Didn't you?
Yeah, I think everybody wants that,
right?
Oh
my gosh. Don't you think that you felt like, oh, I'm ready to like find the person I want to marry? Or maybe not, because maybe I'm just putting that on you.
When we met?
Yeah.
I wasn't in a rush to get married, no. Did I want to get married? Yeah. Was that something I hope for in the future? Yes, but I don't know if you're going this direction, because some people will go, hey, you should never date, especially in the context of faith. You should never date without the intention of marriage.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking that, but
and some people really do like believe that to their core. I necessarily don't, just because I think dating is a part of relational progress. It's a part of figuring out what you want, what you like, what you're interested in, who you're curious. I think there's a lot of pressure that we put on dating when it's like this is either marriage or break.
Yeah.
As the further you get into a relationship, yes, then you just need to start having those conversations. But yeah, I think just to give people more freedom, like dating is cool.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Just make it start casual and then see where it goes.
Which with my friend who did break up, I was like, you should feel so proud of yourself that you put yourself out there, you tried something and it's not the end of the world that it didn't work out. In fact, I think you're going to probably find the next person pretty quickly because you're putting yourself out there to try something out.
Sure. Yeah.
Rather than waiting for the right person.
Mm-hmm. But then I agree 100%. But then that's what I would, say is, as we're talking about that, I'm going to marry this man. That's why it can be a dangerous framework and mindset because you want it so badly that it's not, because I think really what you're saying is not that I'm going to marry, I'm going to marry this man, but you're like, I'm going to marry a man. You're just the one that
is ready to get married.
I'll say you're just the one that is available now. In terms of the
guy.
The guy.
Yeah,
you're the one that's in the story now.
Yeah.
Because I think it's just more rare that you have that instant chemistry with somebody that you absolutely know within weeks, I'm absolutely going to marry you. I think that can happen. I think
it definitely can happen because it's happened to our friends.
That's what I said.
Yeah,
I think
like
it can happen, but I think it's way more rare.
Yeah, but if
we try to make the exception the standard, rather than just highlighting, wow, that's a beautiful story and an exception, but let's not make that the standard.
Yeah, but I think it can happen.
We're saying the same thing. I don't think it happens as much as we want it to happen or we think it happens.
Yeah.
Within weeks, we can do a study. Let's do a survey of unguarded and relationships and marriage. Like, we have a friend, Eric, who's in town, not in town, like, in LA now, but is here, and him and his wife, Melissa. And how long you guys been married, Eric?
6 months. What?
6 months.
You've been married
oh,
6
it's
months.
Fresh. Yeah. Wow. How long?
Oh my gosh.
For some reason, how long you been together?
We've been together for a year, and we've known each other for a year.
A year. Wow.
So
wow, you guys, it's crazy with that. I'm not even going to ask you the question because I think you're going to counter my point. But you guys
let's ask the question.
But you guys have a chemistry and a type of connectivity that feels like you've known each other for a long time.
It really does.
Like legitimately.
Yeah,
I told the story, not realizing, you never said this. I told the story in my head that you guys have been together for like a decade and been married for like 3 years.
Wow.
That's awesome. Okay.
Okay, but how long? So I want to ask the question.
Go for it.
When you started dating her, you said you knew her for a year and then you started dating? Or you started dating pretty quickly?
We kind of dated pretty quickly. It just wasn't as public as like, we're official, but
yeah,
it was very just like casual. So yeah, but she.
And when did you know that you wanted to marry her? And be honest.
I think after 4 months of official dating, and then I proposed that 4th month, and then we waited 6 more months, and we got married.
Okay, so you'd been dating
4 months.
4 months.
Yep.
And you knew you wanted to marry her, and you proposed to her in that moment, around that time. Around that time.
Yeah. And Eric, how old are you, Eric? 24?
I am 27.
27. Is she 24?
She's 20.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
You want to start young with it. I get it. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. 3, that's a great time frame. That's not 3 weeks in, which is what I was talking about. The people that I've been hearing this from, it's weeks, not months.
Okay.
And
yeah, that's true. You don't want to rush it too quickly.
Yes, I think 4 months, for some people that's normal. For some people that's way too fast. Some people way too slow.
Us, I know it was. I'm not sure how you felt, but I definitely felt like in 3 months, I think I want to marry this person.
3 months, I'm not saying 3 weeks. You can keep it real. Yeah.
Yeah, actually could be. It could have been 3 weeks.
100%. But the nature of our relationship was different because of the distance, because of living in different places, because of we weren't in the same
But I think
world.
There was a chemistry that
of course
pulled us together.
Yes.
So that's the part, I don't know how yes, attraction could grow. Yes, we've spoken about this on the pod that, you've definitely got more hands over the years and your styles got better. I don't know why that is, but it just happened.
I just cared more.
Yeah. And, but our chemistry was kind of immediate that I felt like we had chemistry. So back to this person who was like, okay, I'm going to give this a go. But then there was just no chemistry. I'm like, well, you can't make that. You can't pretend it's there. I mean, you can grow an attraction. I do agree in that. Because sometimes you can go, that person's not my type, but I'm going to go for it.
Yep.
And then you fall in love with a person and that person becomes way more attractive because you fall in love with that person's heart.
For sure.
And I think that has a lot to do with it. But that chemistry part, you either have it or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't force it. And all that to say is this person knew that they didn't have that chemistry and they knew there was red flags. And she asked me for advice okay, hey, do you think that I should break up with this person? Obviously, we try really hard not to tell someone what to do. I just let them I think you already know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, this person was going to break up with this person pretty quickly. And then weeks and a month and maybe 2 months go by. I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Like, why are you still in it? If you really know this is not going to, doesn't have a future. And you know what's interesting, we can talk about this in more depth, is that I felt like she started to change, or she started getting sadder and more disconnected as a person.
Sure. Yeah.
And maybe that happens when you delay something you know you have to do, that you start getting more sad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you're not actually living as your optimal self.
You're not being authentic.
And there's something about the delay, not even just in romantic relationships, but we had another similar situation just in a friendship where this week somebody basically, it was like somebody broke up with us as friends.
I know, that was really sad.
But they sent us a video message, it's that part, and I love them, and there was no drama. There wasn't anything dramatic about it. But it made me sad just that we're losing a friendship. But what was interesting to me, it was a decision that was delayed for a long time.
Yeah.
Which
they apologize for. But,
yeah, totally. And there's not even any ill will but you could sense in them, they felt terrible that it took so long. Yeah. Which it didn't need to. That was my whole point.
No, totally.
Like, and good.
And even if they had said it straight away, we'd been like, and there doesn't have to be, like maybe they felt like it had to be a really big conversation, or
sure.
And we, on the other hand, were like, you didn't need to stress over it.
Yes. Yeah, because the stress is created in the delay.
Yeah.
The longer you delay on something you need to do,
I feel like,
again, it doesn't soften the blow, and it doesn't make you better. You become less of a person.
Yeah.
It makes it even harder, actually, because then you also start thinking about all the things that could have happened during that time frame. All the lost time and the gaps. Whereas, like, and back to breakups, like, how do you know? Like a conversation I had literally this morning with a friend who's going through it. The irony is he was talking about things today that we talked about 2.5 years ago.
Wow.
And he was hoping that certain dynamics would shift, right, in the relationship that would allow them to progress. But at the end of the day, he basically, and there was great things that happened in the relationship, of course. I don't want to diminish that.
Like they grew, maybe.
Or they shared memories, or they had fun together. But in terms of, both of them having a desire to be married and start a family and hoping that it would be with each other. But at the end of the day there were certain things that they weren't going to be on the same page with, that were like non-negotiables. And so at the end of the day you need me to be here, but I'm not willing to be here. And so what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like,
maybe you're two roads and you keep thinking you're going to merge into one road, but
absolutely.
You can't get there. So then if it's still there after so much time has passed and you're still on two different roads, then what are you trying to convince each other?
For sure. And eventually what happens, and happened in this situation, is you hope that those two lanes merge into one lane. Yeah. But most of the time it merges into a dead end. Yeah. And then you just stand there going, that sucks. We just wasted all this time. And then you got to circle back, and I could feel that in him going, I was really hoping we would get there, but then we didn't. And now I just feel like we wasted time. Yeah. And so the ways that you can figure out, maybe if you have some tools, some insights to help people, like what are pinpoints to, when it's worth it to fight through the issues and the struggles, where you're missing each other, and when it's time to tap out. What are some ways to identify?
Well, I think that it helps, especially for me, because I'm an external processor, to talk to someone about it. I think, I don't know who the person you're really talking about, but I could guess.
They literally just called me 10 minutes before this, so there's no way for you to know.
I know, but I could just guess. That I feel like when people stay isolated, it's like they're kind of telling you what's happening, but they're not really sharing how they're feeling. Maybe because they don't even want to confront the things that they're actually feeling. And if you can't confront it with someone else, then you'll never be able to actually share that truth with yourself to then be able to communicate to the person that you need to communicate it to.
Sure.
So, I think that's why it's good to bring people in that you truly trust, that know you and can tell you, hey, I just don't think this is your best. Like even the friend that that eventually did break up with the guy she was dating, her mom saw them together and was like, whoa, this is not, you don't seem like you have chemistry. Like this is not, you don't seem like you're beaming in love. So what are you doing? Why are you trying, like, kind of, put the red flag out there? So if you hear that and you hear that couple times, or you have feedback from your friend who loves you and knows you, then it's like you have to then take action on it. So sharing with someone so that you can maybe even just share it out loud. And I don't know if this person truly shared it all. And only that person can really know.
Yep. And how do you know when to fight for it?
Again, I think when like we had friends that went through a really tough time and they were really hurting. And I remember hearing that the girl was like, I think this is it. I'm done. The moment I heard that, because I really love them both, I was like, Joe, we have to see them like tonight. We can't wait. I don't want her to like sit in this feeling of I'm done. It's over for too long if it's something worth fighting for.
Yep.
And so we're going to come alongside them. And I think, we had to be willing, obviously, to make time to see them, but also they had to say, okay, we'll at least before we officially end this, we're going to let someone in on this.
Yeah, and I think that's a good kind of gauge, is because I think a lot of times we make rash decisions in the emotion.
Yeah.
Of a hurt, of a disappointment. So even in that, I remember that going, saying those words, I'm done. And you could feel the finality of it. But it was, that decision and that declaration was made like minutes after a really tough moment.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, we tell people, hey, don't make like big decisions in the moment.
Yeah.
Like take some time, process, bring people into it. For us, all right, have you prayed about it? Have you invited God into it? Have you invited others into it? Have you seen the full picture? Have you allowed the person to communicate their side of the story? Or are you just taking X, Y, and Z, And so, just the irony, in that a little bit we're talking about, sometimes in a breakup, you can take too long, to do something you need to do. But there's also that space where you need to take some time before you make that call. Like, don't pull the ripcord in the moment.
Yes.
If there's a simple way.
Yeah. While you're in the heat of the emotion, don't just say, okay, we're done.
Yep.
Before.
If you give it some space.
Yeah.
Take some time with people. And then after that, when you've been able to be cool-headed, the emotions aren't running so high and they're not, taking mastery over you. And then you can go, yes, this is still the choice that I want to make. And I feel like this is because of X, Y, and Z. I'm going to move forward. Then you can know, okay, I didn't just make a decision based on how you made me feel in this moment, but as a whole, full picture of this isn't working for me.
Yeah. It makes me think of another friend who I, met only really recently, but she was asking me advice because she was married and he was being unfaithful. And when I really heard like their whole story and their whole journey, I'm like, first of all, he's completely disrespectful, unapologetic, just pretty much like, no, this is who I am. And I want a friendship with the person I was being unfaithful with. I'm like, no, that is truly uncalled for and this
it's not even
person's
a red flag.
yeah,
It's just all the flags.
it's all the flags. It was
yeah.
like, and then when she was telling me the whole story from the beginning, again, without trying to tell her like, oh, I think you need to leave. The thought that came to me was, I don't know if you were ever married. Like you got married and the vows and everything, but I don't know if he ever respected you and ever treated you like his wife.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's actually crushing. And do you want to stay in that where he's never actually been there for you? So, because she, of course, has faith. And so she was like, maybe I should keep fighting for it. I'm like, maybe that's where God allows you like to see it from a different perspective. And it's not that you are, maybe you're not going against your faith. You're not going against God by saying, I think we should end this. But maybe it was never good in the first place. Like I allowed you to disrespect me for too long.
Yeah.
And now it's irreparable.
Yeah, irreparable.
So that was super hard. And then I think, they tried and tried and tried for a few months. And, she was texting me like, we're going to see if we can figure this out.
Yeah.
And then now it sounds like, okay, it's ended. But, she's so young too. And I'm like, you have your whole life ahead of you. And I just know that God will have a beautiful marriage for you. You don't have to be stuck in this nightmare and think you have to stay because it's the right thing to do.
And yeah. I mean, there's so many layers to who you choose, right? And the person and like going, what are your non-negotiables? What are the value systems? Like we talk to people all the time that are in relationships and where one person is a person of faith and the other person is not. And we talk about it a lot because people don't fully understand it. They think it's just like an affiliation thing.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian and they're an atheist, or I'm Catholic and they're Buddhist, and you're missing it if you think it's just you need to like believe the same things, because that's just shallow. I was talking with a friend about this recently.
Yeah.
Because he's in a relationship with somebody he believes in Jesus and she doesn't, and she's open and she's been open. But it's a tension point, and I said, okay, because the tension point is that this is actually not a belief system for you. It's a lifestyle choice. It is a core principle. It is something that isn't what you identify with. It's who you are at your core. Does that make sense?
The person who does have faith, it's like who they are in their core. Yeah. Okay.
It's not just something they do. It's vital.
Yeah.
To their being, and because of that, the other person is not able to meet them in that space, and they both are at a lack because of it. The person who does believe in God is at a lack because they feel like they can't share the thing that's closest to them with the person that they're closest to. And then imagine how that feels as somebody who feels like you're always on the outside, not by choice, but by just proxy.
Yeah.
And so the reason that's essential, and the reason we talk a lot about it, the reason why even the scriptures talk about it, is not because God wants to paint us as insider versus outsider, chosen versus unchosen. No, it's because when Jesus is an essential part of your story, it has to be every part of your story. And it's not fair to the person who's trying to figure out who Jesus is in their own life. I know this is going a little bit of a side note, but I think it's important because it's one of those things where it's always going to be a pain point. Because if it's important to you, if it matters to you, the only way it works is if it doesn't actually matter to you. If Jesus isn't at the core of your life, then it doesn't matter if the person that you're dating
that's good.
ever comes to know who he is, because it's just a belief system. It's just a thing that you do.
Yeah, it's like a cultural thing.
Yeah, but when when it's a way of being, when it's an essence, that's the chemistry part that goes deeper.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you go, okay, I have to decide, is this an actual priority in my life? And it's not fair to that person to feel like they have to jump through hoops to access my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And so you just have to be honest about where you're at the beginning of the relationship. And as you're progressing, and you have to choose and say, am I okay with this person wherever they are?
Mm.
And you can't put the pressure on them that in order for you to have full access to my heart, you've got to make this choice.
Yeah.
You've got to let them have their own journey and decide, if you're going to be with me, this is a priority. And I'm going to invite you along to this on the journey, and hopefully that you discover your own space in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't move forward in good conscience, knowing that we're never going to get to that same place of intimacy.
Yeah. Well, I was having another conversation with a friend who, that's how they started, was she did believe, but she didn't have a really like strong faith.
Mm-hmm.
And her boyfriend had a really strong faith. And then they started making like kind of terrible choices in their relationship and kind of like veered them off, and it just was kind of a disaster. So they broke up eventually, and then he reached out after like a year or so, like, hey, I'm kind of interested to like connect again.
Mm.
And then it was on the down low for a long time, but she was sharing with me yesterday that the reason why he was hesitant about coming back into the relationship is that he wanted to make sure that she had a strong faith, because he was like, I don't want you to be riding my coattails and be in my shadow trying to get close to me, but not sitting on your own feet.
Yeah.
And I could see that was unhealthy. But now I want people to see you for you, not as my girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And when she told me that, yes, I'm like, actually, that's really wise and really thoughtful, that it doesn't work for you. Even if you really want him and you love him and you want it to work, if you are doing whatever you can just to be with him rather than being your own person and having your own faith,
Mm-hmm.
and standing alongside each other, doing life together.
Mm.
And so I think that's the hard part, is whether it's faith or just like knowing yourself, that if you don't truly know yourself, then you can't stand alongside each other. You're always going to be under that other person.
Mm-hmm.
And that other person is going to feel the weight of that.
Sure. Yeah. But how do you know yourself?
Well, I think, from me, faith has so much to do with it. Like there's this video, YouTuber, Instagram guy who like goes around mostly in New York City and goes up to people and says, hey, you're confident. Like, what gives you confidence?
Mm.
And he's becoming massive. So one of the things I was thinking about is like, okay, what gives me confidence? When I lack confidence is when I feel like I'm not connected to God and my faith feels shaky.
Mm-hmm.
And when I feel most confident is when I feel most connected to Jesus.
Mm.
So I think he reminds me of who I am. And it's not just your wife or someone's mom or friend. It's actually like just me. Like, who am I? Who did you make me to be? And he helps like realign myself.
Mm.
Like we went to this event on Friday called the Arena, the B event, which is connected to Arena,
Mm-hmm.
which Erwin and Aaron lead. And Brendan Brashad was talking about being in alignment and out of alignment. Mm-hmm. And I could tell that I felt like, oh my gosh, I feel out of alignment, but I'm not quite sure why. Like I felt not myself, Mm. And it's funny how you can feel alignment and feel confident. And then one moment, maybe these little moments, choices that you start making where you get out of alignment. And when you're out of alignment, you're not confident.
Sure. Yeah.
And so I felt like there was like little moments that kind of toppled my confidence a little bit and just felt shaky and didn't feel connected to Jesus. So this weekend, even just being at Mosaic on Sunday. That's why church is so good, because it's like that one private moment. I mean, you're in a room full of people, but it's that moment where you're like, can come to Jesus in worship and talk to him and get realigned again.
Yeah.
So that is what gives me confidence.
Mm.
And I think you are more attracted to me when I have that confidence, because that confidence comes from Jesus.
That's good. Yeah. Even, we just had a newer friend wrote a book called Confidence that we have at the house, that ironically you're talking about that,
Oh yeah, totally. That's beside my bed.
Oh, it's beside your bed now. Yeah.
Yeah, somehow. I haven't read it yet, but
shout out Russ. Thank you for the book and writing it. I mean, we bought it because we wanted to support. And so I have another friend, Charles, wrote a book. Yeah, it's coming out,
God chose me.
But it talks about how to have confidence, like unshakable confidence.
Yeah. Which I love his confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look that good, do you really need confidence? It just comes natural, right? But yeah, I just feel like maybe that's even a whole layer that we could peel back in an episode, just talking about how to grow in confidence.
Yeah, I think that'd be
amazing. You don't have time on this one, but maybe a little teaser. Maybe we'll do it.
No, I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, because I know that's something that we talk about a lot, and I, you find out what your starting point is. My starting point is definitely somebody who lacks confidence, and have figured out how to navigate that, and how do you find it and identify it and live from it, but in a way that's not the fake it till you make it, because I think that's an unhealthy view of confidence. But yeah, like it takes on a whole other layer when you're in relationships as well.
Yeah.
When how do you bring your best self forward confidently? How do you lead each other well? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, how do you have moments of vulnerability when you feel like you're out of alignment? Mm-hmm. When you feel like you're not at your best? When you feel like you're on shaky ground?
Yeah.
Like those can be the moments that really actually bond you.
Yeah.
To your person.
That's true. I honestly was thinking about that this morning. I'm like, because I think that's one thing that I find really hard. I don't know what it is about telling you. Sometimes that there's moments where I'm like, okay, I share it all, and I just feel so good afterwards. And I don't know if we've had like a chance since Thursday, Friday, where I felt shaky, that I've had time to say to you, oh, I feel out of alignment. Like I feel like it was such a busy weekend that we're going from thing to thing, that I didn't get a chance to do that. But I felt like even just coming on to do this episode, I'm like, oh yeah, this is not good, because I want to share it with you, because you're right. Like as much as it's really hard to share it, it does bond us. And every time I've shared it with you, you've been so loving and caring, and like you just listen and you go, it's okay. And then I feel better. So I don't know what stops me from sharing those things, but I don't know.
What's one thing that you think? In our last few minutes together
to talk. Well, I mean, partly I think that then it's me admitting that I don't have it all together. And that like, okay, I do feel like I'm stretching my capacity. So partly the narrative is, if I share that I'm not doing well, then I'm not strong enough to do this. And then that will change your perception of me. But I know that you wouldn't, or I don't even know why. I don't even know why I don't share like what I'm thinking. Partly I'm also like, what are you thinking? Tell me what's going inside your brain. Do you think the same thing? Are you feeling the same way? And I don't ask because I don't know.
Well, ironically, you're talking about that yesterday on the arena call. We do a weekly call with Erwin and Aaron you know, it's a mastermind, a couple hundred people around the world, and once a week it's like a leadership, or everyone would talk for 30 minutes about leadership principle and then open up a Q&A. And yesterday there was a guy who shared, who's pretty open, newer friend, and he said, like, what do you do when you're struggling, you're not doing well, but you still have to lead? You still have to like be there for people. And he's like, you guys seem like, you know, I know you've had difficulties, and even he referenced, you shared, like, it's been a really difficult time.
Yeah.
But it like doesn't seem like it affects you.
Yeah.
So he's like, how do you do it? You know,
Yeah,
and Erwin
great
just
question.
laughed. And he said, oh, you're assuming that the well is full.
Yeah.
Like, you don't realize that, no, there's plenty of times where I'm at my bucket hits the bottom of that well, scraping for any water, and there's nothing to be found.
Yeah.
You know? And even as he was talking about that, it got me thinking, as he was sharing, it got me thinking about two things. You know, and I'm processing how to articulate this, because it was an interesting thought of both when your well's empty, and then even you hear this phrase a lot of times, the light at the end of the tunnel. And both, when I heard, you know, Erwin talking about his bucket scraping the bottom of a well, and it made me think of when I hear people all the time talk about, you know, just I just gotta wait till I get to the light at the end of the tunnel. But if you ever been there, in those moments of depression or anxiety or like fear, uncertainty, it feels like there's no light coming. And I had this thought, maybe it's because we need to stop waiting for the light at the end of the tunnel. And we need to realize that we are the lights in the midst of the tunnel. You know, we are the ones that bring to the moment what is necessary. You know, maybe it's when our well is dry, when there's nothing left in there, maybe it has to be an internal choice that overflows, that we can actually create the water necessary for us to keep taking that next step, where we become the very thing that we're desperate for, right? And sometimes the only way that we're able to overcome those hard moments, those really difficult seasons, those moments when I don't have it, is to actually just be real about the fact I don't have it. You know? And when I don't have it, I have to decide, do I become it? Do I become what people need me to be? And I elevate, and I shift, and I change. And it's like one of those, I stop waiting. I think that's the shift. We stop waiting for it to come.
That's
and
good.
We create what needs to be created. And that's how we snap out of it.
Well, I was reading this verses yesterday when it talks about like young men will grow weary and tired and stumble and fall. And then it says, but can I just remember? I did a screenshot.
Contrary to popular opinion, I don't have the entire Bible memorized.
I know, right?
I wish I could.
Do you not know, have you not heard, the Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. So I think there's like that both and, right? Like, I love that you said that, okay, I just have to be more. I have to elevate. And maybe that's the feeling of like that desperate feeling where you don't feel like you have it in you to be the more that you need to be. And at the same time, that God's like, even young people will grow tired and weary. Like, this is just part of life. But the one who doesn't get tired and weary is him. Like, that's unfathomable, but that's what it's saying. It's like, no one can understand why he doesn't get tired.
Yeah.
But he never gets tired. And he's the one that, when you put your hope in him, he will make you soar. Like, the fact that that you will soar like wings. You will soar on wings like eagles. and you'll run and not go weary. That maybe I'm just like hitting the bottom of the bucket and going, I need to find that deeper. I need to become more. And that transition is so hot, so hot.
That's what he reminds us that he is the well, you know, and that you just got to get in the well. You just got to get around the source. And then we are reminded that we are created in the image and likeness of God. And the beautiful thing about who God is he does not hoard the best parts of himself to himself. He gives them freely. And he gives us access. And it's like, that's why it's important and necessary and essential for our soul to have close proximity.
Yeah.
So that, again, it's not even that he necessarily pours in, although he does. It's not that he pours in, it's that he unlocks. And then it's
That's
like,
a cool word.
boom. And then it was like, how did I have access to all of this? I feel like it came out of nowhere. It's like it was always inside. It was just the dam had to burst open. You know, but sometimes we don't get to that place or that fully actualize it until we're willing to be empty. You know, that's the thing. If you're not willing to empty yourself, then you're not going to be ready for God to meet you in the moment when he's been waiting to provide what only he can. You know?
That's good.
We should end here. Give you a chance to.
You're so good. That was very good. I'm like, okay, so maybe being okay with not being great and being okay that you're on the precipice of being unlocked to the more.
Yeah, it's an ironic place to get to, you know. Are we willing to be empty? I think that's the issue. There's a lot of times we withhold, right? Because we're afraid of being empty. And so I think God's just like, trust me, empty yourself, and then watch the reserve that's unleashed. Because he'll never leave us with a lack, ever. And maybe full circle in relationships. Maybe that's something that we all need to learn. Is find that person who's worthy of you emptying yourself. Who's worthy of you giving it all, sacrificing on their behalf, completely, you reaching your bottom of the barrel because you've given them everything, and then letting the intimacy that you create together, and the choice that communicates that you're worth this, you're worthy of my all, and then that's the person where you go, I'm a ride or die with you.
Yeah.
Because you didn't hold anything back. And then maybe that's actually how we are supposed to like love each other, is that it's this constant filling and refilling in each other. When I pour out, I'm pouring into you. And when you pour out, you're pouring into me. Yeah. And in that way, neither of us are ever left with a lack.
That's good.
Want to sign us off?
You know, you can wrap it up.
Okay, I'll wrap it up. Whatever you say, this is your pod. Okay. Thank you so much for listening to Unguarded. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with your friends. Subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple, all the platforms, because we do this because we want to help you and your friends win in relationships. And so, yeah, we can't wait to continue doing this with you, see what is coming next as we find new spaces and new studios and new conversations. We want to keep connected and engaged with you. All right. Have an incredible rest of your week. We love you, and we'll see you next week on the pod.
Bye.
Bye.